Lobster Shell Disease by Meg Boucher, Alyssa Blumenthal, and Ryan Duffy. Rising sea temperatures and ocean acidification put stress on the American lobsters, making them susceptible to forming lesions in which bacteria can infect. Diseased lobsters are more commonly found in New England, and some can be found in the mid-Atlantic near Long Island. It starts when lesions form on the outer layer of the shell along the carapace. Once this process starts, there is no definite cure for the individual lobster. Bacteria live in the lesions, making the lobster susceptible to infections that compromise their molting process. If the disease spreads to the bloodstream, the effects can be lethal.
Lobster shell disease is an epizootic disease, which means it affects many of the same organisms at the same time. Signs of disease include black spots or deep holes on the outer shell and a russet color shell rather than a bright red. It affects their immune system, their ability to molt, and causes physical and hormonal imbalances. The lobsters are unable to fight off the disease due to their immune system being compromised. The molting process is important to lobsters because it is the way they grow, and in this case, one of the most effective ways to get rid of the disease. They shed their old shell in order to make room for their new, larger shell. When they are diseased, they either have complications molting or they molt at the wrong times. Females are susceptible to hormonal imbalances during pregnancy because they molt before the time is right, endangering their young. Fortunately, the disease cannot be passed on from one lobster to another, and it does not affect anything that might eat lobsters, such as humans.
New England is a common location for affected lobsters to be found. Although there is no solid way of proving why this is, many scientists theorize that they are found here due to environmental stress factors in this area. Some believe it is due to rapidly increasing water temperatures, while others think there is a link between the disease and an oil spill in New York harbor during 1996. The bacteria suspected to be infecting these lobsters is called aquamarina and can be found in New England waters as well.
In the 1930s, lobstermen in Rhode Island began to notice that strange black spots were forming on the outer shells of the lobsters. Since black spots made the lobsters undesirable to eat, they would get tossed back into the ocean where the disease would progress and worsen. It wasn't until the 1980s when the disease was given its name, lobster shell disease. 10 years later, signs and symptoms worsened again, and lobsters were being found with deep holes or lesions rather than just black spots. It was then when researchers began to study the disease and potential treatments for it.
Testing for treatments of this disease is not easy. Many treatments are only feasible in a controlled laboratory setting. There is no large-scale treatment as of right now, but that is the goal. Researchers have collected data that show malachite green, an agent used in aquaculture that kills microorganisms, and formalin, a form of formaldehyde, can be used to limit formation of lesions and formation of disease. Emerging lobsters in fresh water can also slow down disease progression. Studies have shown in the lab that probiotics can be used to treat similar diseases in oysters by slowing down disease progression and boosting their immune system. This gives hope that probiotics can also be used to treat lobster shell disease. Since the disease is on the outer layer of the shell, molting can potentially cause the lobster to shed the disease. One hypothesis is that more calcium in the lobster's diet can increase the amount of minerals needed for molting, meaning if lobstermen put bait with higher calcium content in their traps, lobsters may be able to molt better, helping them get rid of the disease.
Although there is no physical harm to humans due to lobster shell disease, people should still care about working towards a cure. The population is decreasing very quickly, leaving Buzzards Bay with a 50% decline in lobsters in 2007. More than half the population in Buzzards Bay is affected by the disease. The lack of healthy lobsters has created a major dent in the New England economy. Due to the lobster's appearance, many people find them unappealing to eat, regardless of the fact that there is no danger in eating an affected lobster. This can force lobstermen out of business as well as potentially endangering the presence of lobsters in restaurants.
The goal through all of this research is to increase the healthy lobster population in New England and prevent further spreading. To achieve this goal, researchers will continue to work to find a large scale cure to put an end to lobster shell disease. In the future, there will be prevention methods to help stop the disease from forming in the first place. Scientists will also work to promote molting as much as possible. Lobstermen will in the end flourish when the healthy lobsters return, and ultimately the economy will only benefit from their increased health.
Although this disease has been around for a while, the research is still limited and needs further testing. Treatments are still in experimental stages, but there is hope to find a definite cure. Grants are being provided to further the research of treatments and the prevention of spreading lobster shell disease along the coast of New England. Here on the left, you can see a lobster that does not have a diseased shell. There are no dark spots, lesions, or deep holes on its carapace. The shell also does not have a rust-like color as seen on the lobster on the right that is infected with lobster shell disease. This lobster's carapace is covered by lesions and has a rusted look, making it unappetizing, although it is perfectly safe to eat.
In the aquaculture lab at Massachusetts Maritime Academy, students in the Marine Safety Science and Environmental Protection major have been spending their time at the academy studying lobster shell disease. The lobsters being studied were found here on the coast of Buzzards Bay. The lobsters were found to be infected with lobster shell disease, which was determined by the lesions and dark rust-like color of their shells. These lobsters that are affected with lobster shell disease are being studied in the aquaculture lab in an attempt to learn more about the disease. The end goal is to further the understanding of how the disease begins and progresses. By furthering their knowledge of lobster shell disease, students are trying to protect their local lobster population and prevent the future progression of lobster shell disease.